This episode of Linux Action Show is brought to you by GoDaddy.com. Use the code Linux and save.
Welcome to the Linux Action Show, Season 25, Episode 8. My name is Chris.
My name is Matt.
Hey there, Matt. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Should I tell the folks about the big show?
Let's hear it.
All right, well, coming up in this week's episode of the Linux Action Show, we're finally going to talk about something that we, for shame, have not really talked about very much on this here show. In nearly 7 years, we have not brought up Cron.
How could, and you got to ask yourself, how have we not talked about it
well,
yet?
Well, we must right this wrong.
Absolutely.
So in the second half of this week's show, we're going to give you an overview of Cron and then show you some fun things you can do with it, plus get some examples from the live chat, what they're doing with Cron.
Yeah.
And I'll cover some of the things that I do in the enterprise with my clients on the server side.
Oh, that'll be useful.
Yeah.
Right on.
And then coming up in the news segment, of course, Steam was officially launched for Linux this week. Lots of love for the Linux camp. There's also a very exciting story that was slipped in there that not many people caught, so we'll cover that. Also, we got official dates for Ubuntu Phone images.
Nice. Nice.
And there's a big Chrome OS story brewing, so we'll tell you about that too. But first, Matt, it's our picks. Are you ready?
I'm ready for some picks.
All right, Matt, my first Runs Linux pick for this week, or the Runs Linux pick for this week, is one that I think a lot of people knew, but we got some details a few weeks ago, and that is DuckDuckGo. Runs Linux. DuckDuckGo, of course, is a much beloved search engine that is in direct competition with Google and Bing. Only they really value the user's privacy.
They're fanatical about privacy.
Exactly.
They are the most. I mean, absolutely have the most transparent privacy policy I've ever seen. They're painful. And more importantly, they show you why they're more in tune with your privacy needs than other search engines, which is awesome.
And they're also the default on Mint, right?
They are.
Yeah.
They were. Yeah. And I know at one point that they were, and I believe they still are. So any Mint users can certainly chime into that.
Yeah. So DuckDuckGo is awesome. Now, they released at the end of January some stats from February of 2012. So can it kind of give us an overview of where they're at and how they've really grown. So as of February 2012, they had 1 million searches a day. I would imagine that's even up now.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right?
They've been growing like a weed for some time now.
Yeah. So here's a little. Now this whole article talks a little bit about them, but here's the goodies that we want. So 30 million searches in February 2012 alone. That averages over 1 million searches a day, 12 million API requests per day.
Wow.
This all runs on top of EC2, where these EC2 machines are running Ubuntu. They take advantage of Perl. They take advantage of Postgres, SQL, Nginx, Git, Yammer, JavaScript, all these kinds of things that they run on top of EC2 in the Ubuntu cloud images.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. Pretty wild that anything that's really kind of come to the web in the last generation of new web products is almost always running Linux, and many of them are actually running on Ubuntu on EC2. That's been a huge growth area for Canonical.
I think it's been a fantastic thing, and it's really demonstrating that there's something to this, and I think other people are saying, hey, that's a good way to go. Obviously, it's working. Let's follow it.
It's quick. It's quick. We've covered the benefits and the disadvantages of that on both TechSnap and Coda Radio, but they're obviously for deployability, for scalability.
Yeah.
It's taking off like huge. And so DuckDuckGo, we love DuckDuckGo here on the show, and anytime we get a chance to talk about what they're doing is really great. If you don't know about them, go to duckduckgo.com and try them out as your search engine for a week.
You bet. It's easy. Firefox makes it easy. You can make that the default search engine. I mean, it's fantastic. And of course, like we said earlier, I believe Linux Mint makes it their default.
And of course, when you're searching over at Google, they're also using Linux.
Yes,
right.
They are.
Yeah, I mean, let's be fair.
And they're using Linux amongst other things. But
But I mean, they actually kind of have their own, variant of Linux that they maintain. They're actually here. They say they're using stock Ubuntu,
and they share what they're doing with it and how they're doing it, and they're just really awesome about that. So cool. Yeah. So cool.
All right, Matt. Well, before we get into the Android app pick and the Linux desktop pick, which are both awesome this week. You have been raving about the Android pick, so I can't wait to tell people about that. Let's take a break and thank our sponsor this week, GoDaddy.com. Now, GoDaddy just wrapped up their Super Bowl celebration, and I thought, you know what, we'd used up all the discounts we were ever going to get out of these guys.
Yes. We figured we were out of luck at this
There's
point.
no more discounts left to be had.
Clearly.
You can't have any more discounts. Well, you got what you got to remember is Danica Patrick is a race car driver.
Yes.
She drives race cars, okay? that means she can get us all kinds of things. So she just flies in there and she's stealing a whole new batch. Now, she used up all the other promo codes, but don't worry, we still actually are able to get a pretty great deal. Now, she's grabbing a batch of these. I think she's only going to be doing it till the end of February.
Do you think she takes the car like through the wall, grabs him, does like a side wheelie out the door? I mean,
what happens? So I can't give away too much.
Okay.
I mean, otherwise we're not going to get these discounts.
This is true.
They're going to catch. I mean, GoDaddy watches. But
this is true.
So picture a race car.
Okay.
And then, do you remember in Batman 2, I believe it was, when the Penguin took over the Batmobile?
I do remember that.
And he had control of it, and he was driving right into a wall, and then right at the last minute, Batman's able to pull a lever, and the Batmobile splits apart, and then it's a skinnier Batmobile.
That is it.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't want to go much further than that. But
I can picture that. I can see how that would work.
Right.
Nice.
So here's the code you got for us. When you're checking out over at GoDaddy.com, use the code GO28 off 3, and you'll save 28% off anything you're buying. If you're doing renewals, you're getting hosting, you're setting up a VPS, whatever it might be, GO28 off 3. You know, we talked about podcasting last week. GoDaddy actually has a podcasting hosting service that does the feeds and all that kind of stuff. If you want to set up a podcast, GO28 off 3 to save 28% off whatever you're doing. Or if you're getting a .com for limited time, Linux $2.95 will buy you up to 3 .coms for $2.95.
What a solid way to unify a new podcast you have going. Your web hosting, your domain, and of course your podcasting content. That's great.
Absolutely. So Go28 off 3 to save 28%, and Linux $2.95 to get a .com for $2.95. We'll have that in the show notes too. If you come up with something later and you can't remember the codes, you can just go check our show notes. And remember, just visiting those links lets GoDaddy know that you're watching these ads and that you're paying attention and that you appreciate them supporting the Linux Action Show. And of course, a big thank you to GoDaddy.com for their longtime support of the Linux Action Show.
Awesome.
All right, Matt.
All right.
This Android pick is so cool. It is like having your own automated assistant built into your Android device.
It is awesome.
Now, it is, just a disclaimer, it's like $6.99.
It is $6.99, but the most important thing is, and I think I provided you with a video that kind of gives, in the show notes that we'll throw it in the show notes, and we'll put it up there. But it shows you all the different things you can do with it. And just to give you an example, let's say you're on your way to work. And
now,
you
by the way,
set routine.
It's called Tasker.
It is called Tasker.
We didn't say
that. Would help.
Yeah,
that would help if you knew what I was talking about.
Yeah.
But more importantly, let's say you're on your way to work and you want to have your phone set up to turn off its volume only except for select callers. You want to make sure text messages are being replied to automatically.
Hey, I'm busy. I'll call you back in an hour or something like that.
And you can do that based on location or cell towers.
You set up, I thought this was really neat. You set up a Tasker setting so that when you got to my house, it automatically turned off your ringer and set up an automatic test. When somebody calls, it texts them back and says, hey, I'll call you in about an hour and a half.
It's exactly what happens. Yeah, I walk through Chris's door. First of all, it'll text my wife and say, hey, I'm here. Then it sets up an auto-reply text to anyone it sends a text to me that's in my address book, letting them know that I'll get back to them later. Turns off my ringer. Also dims down everything, kind of turns down unnecessary services that I'm running, just really kind of tones everything down so it conserves battery. And it does all this automatically without me having to do a darn thing.
Yeah.
It's just, I set it and forget it.
Now,
it's easy.
It's kind of a complicated app in a lot of ways.
It is. There's a lot to it.
It's a hardcore app, but you get profiles, tasks, and scenes, and there's different events that can happen when one of those conditions is met.
That's right. It's cause and effect. You know, a certain cause happens, a certain event happens, and then you've set a response for that event.
It's kind of like Locale. I've talked about it before on the show, although it's a little more powerful in in sort of the rule sets that you can build. I like that a lot.
I love it.
The other thing about Locale is a lot of the things that give Locale functionality cost money, whereas with Tasker, this stuff is just built into the app.
It's built into it, and it seems like it's kind of pricey at first until you try and live without it, and you won't want to.
Yeah.
It's really addictive because it can do so much.
So what I have done, just as like an early experimentation, is I set it up so that starting at 1700, I think, or 1800, it automatically silences all the alerts.
I love that.
On my and that was just like the first thing I did was just, you know what, at that time all alerts get silenced.
Oh, and you can do it for like you're going to bed and you want to let folks know, hey, I'm going to send everybody straight to voicemail. It's not going to ring, and I'm going to auto text folks back. I'll get back to you later. I'm snoozing. That sort of thing. It's really cool. It's a nice kind of a personal assistant app. It's very, very powerful.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It is like having a personal assistant in your phone. And you can do all kinds of things like battery conditions, all kinds of stuff. So
pretty launch apps at certain times, and then of course the where things happen, whether you want it based on location, GPS location, whether you want it based on a certain time, or whether you want it based on the fact that you've connected to a local Wi-Fi network or even a cell tower. That's how much control you have with this app.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
So it's called Tasker, and we'll have a link to that in the show notes.
Check it out.
It's like $7 or so US dollars.
Best $7 ever spent.
Yeah, it really is. You can save it. Now, for the Linux desktop app pick, this one came, I believe it was from HW Killer in the IRC chat room a couple of weeks ago, and it is so cool. It is called Piano Bar, and it is a command line Pandora client.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, you can play and manage your stations. You can rate songs. You can get upcoming songs. You can have key bindings for different commands. You can remote control it. You can send out your play stuff to Last.fm.
Wow.
It supports proxy if you're outside the U.S.
Ooh, hey, there you go.
And what's really neat about it is because it acts like a terminal application, it has input and output options. So what HW Killer did is he integrated his Pandora Piano Bar command line client with Conky on his desktop.
Oh, nice.
So here on his desktop, he's actually got the album art information and all of that showing up as an export out from Piano Bar running in his terminal in the background.
Oh, and it looks like you got your album art, you got all your details.
You got your title there right here, and it just like built into his desktop as it's running in the background. So
that's cool.
I figured I'd give you a little demo since I've got it installed here. So first thing you do, of course, is you open up a terminal and you launch Piano Bar, right, as you would expect. Yeah. When you run it, it asks. Now I'm missing a GNOME dependency, but it still works fine.
Yeah, it still works. It nags you just because of that one dependency. No big deal.
So then you put in your login information. So here, I'll do that. Cool. While we watch.
So that's awesome. And another benefit to this is that normally if you're if you're listening to Pandora on the web, usually you have the various advertising interruptions, and sometimes it can be a little distracting. Don't think you're going to see a lot of ads in the terminal.
Yeah, probably not.
Just saying.
Okay, so once I've logged in, I get all of my stations are listed here.
Oh, that's very tidy.
And so I'll just let's just pick we'll pick the glitch mob because that should be pretty safe.
Sure.
So I enter in the station I want to listen to, and you just see it goes out.
Oh, right on.
There it goes. Now it's playing. And
that's cool.
I'll quit it so that way I don't get a takedown. But you see, it gives me the album name and all of that stuff.
That's really nice.
Right there on the command line.
That is so cool.
So you can have this running in a terminal window, whatever you want. So it's called Piano Bar. It should be either in your repo or you can find it. Oh, well, geez. I'm not going to give that URL out on air, but you can find a link to that in the show notes.
Yes, you can. Yeah. I'm not going to go there. But I think the thing that you mentioned is the fact you can integrate that into a widget. So, I think that's cool.
Yeah. Well, just like any terminal app, it can, you can pipe things in and out. Sure. It'll output things out to a text file.
So you can customize it to your personal needs. That's
I got to imagine there's probably a way to also capture the audio.
There are. There absolutely is. There's a few applications out there. If you noodle that around, you can probably do something.
Right. I think that's what I'm saying, Matt. But anyways, Piano Bar is pretty cool because whenever I'm working, I always have a terminal window open. And I always have multiple tabs too. So
you got to have multiple tabs.
You might as well. And yes, as the chat room's saying, Pandora is US only. However, Piano Bar does have built-in proxy support.
The magic is in the proxy. Everything's US only until you have a proxy going, and then it doesn't matter. Just saying.
All right, Matt, before we jump into the news, just a brief announcement here. The TechSnap Limited Edition 100 shirt is available only for 16 more days. If you're a fan of the TechSnap program and want to celebrate episode 100, the shirt is available for 16 more days and then never again. We launched it. We launched it a few days ago. We met our reserve within about 6 hours.
Wow, that's really good.
Well, we set the price $13.37.
It's a real reasonable price. Really, really reasonable.
Yeah, we're not making any money, but
yeah, I was gonna say, I less than 20 was just astounding.
Yeah. Well, so this is but
it's a nice gesture.
It's a limited time shirt. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. So, anyways, you can go find a link to that in the show notes, or go to teespring.com/TechSnap100 to celebrate the 100th episode.
That's so awesome. I love the shirt.
100 episodes nonstop in a row since episode 1. Wow. 100 weeks going. Well, at least we will in 16 days. So
nice.
Very cool. All right, Matt. Well, let's do the news.
Hey, it's time for the news. Brought to you by
Loot Crate. Woo. Get yourself some epic geek and gamer swag every single month over at lootcrate.com/Linux and use the promo code Linux when you're checking out. Loot Crate gives you swag every single month, and we're going to do an unboxing of Loot Crate.
Get to see what we got
later in this episode. Now, don't forget, Matt, we have a little contest going on.
We do have a contest. If you have been following me in the subreddit at all, you will know that we have a contest for Doctor Who desktop-themed desktop.
Yep. So if you got a Doctor Who themed setup, maybe on your KDE,
maybe you got a trash can like a
Gnome 3.
TARDIS or something, right? I mean, just whatever you got, wallpapers,
I guess if you got Unity, you could have a Doctor Who background.
Totally. Yeah, totally.
I guess you could do that. Anyways, email a screenshot to matt@jupiterbroadcasting.com with contest in the subject line,
and I will enter that in with the others, and we will be doing the drawing. I think we're going to do it next week.
Next episode?
Yeah.
Next episode, and then if you win, you will get, is it 3 months or 1 month?
3 months of Loot Crate. No credit card required.
Very nice.
Just desktop it, send it.
And next month's Loot Crate is going to be a Doctor Who theme, so it fits in.
We will pull a winner out, and we'll also review the rest of the folks that entered the contest to see what they showed us.
So check out lootcrate.com/Linux to sign up.
That's right.
Now, Matt, the big news this week came out Thursday, I believe. Steam for Linux is now officially available. And, I didn't actually at first appreciate. I was like, well, it's been out since December in beta.
You've kind of been spoiled, right? I mean, yeah.
I actually talked to a new Ubuntu user on Friday at a client. And he said, I mentioned, Steam's available now, because he said, hey, he saw my, hey, you use Linux, right? He saw my desktop. Right. I said, yeah. So he starts talking about Steam, and I said, well, did you know it officially launched today?
Oh,
it did. Hey, I've been thinking about trying that, but I didn't want to bother with it because it was in beta.
Right. Understandable.
I guess. I was surprised to hear that myself. But there are people that have been waiting. And if you go over to the Ask Ubuntu site, they're just getting a massive influx of new Ubuntu users as a result of it. So it's pretty cool. And to celebrate, Steam launched a pretty handsome sale. Some titles up to 75% off. Of course, I've pretty much bought all of these already when they weren't on sale.
But it's cool that they put some time into the design of the page and actually really seem like they're promoting it,
Yeah, in fact, they did very cool. It's funny. So in just the general Reddit gaming community, they're like, oh, yeah, blah, blah. Steam for... Holy crap, Team Fortress 2 Special Limited Edition!
It was all about the titles.
They were freaking out because Team Fortress 2 welcomes Linux. You can get a free limited time edition all-class Tux Penguin free when you play Team Fortress 2 on Linux by March 1st. All you have to do is just play Team Fortress 2.
Well, and I love the graphic for the audio listeners out there. They have a graphic of a rather large man wearing a gas mask snuggling Tux. Yeah. And I think that's so cool.
He loves Tux.
He loves Tux. He's showing him some love. He's got his chemical gloves on and everything. It's great.
And I love that this is over at teamfortress.com/Linux, and they have this install Linux, install Steam, play Team Fortress.
3 steps, folks.
Yeah.
3 simple steps.
And it actually, if you have good hardware and, really, honestly, Ubuntu's not that hard to set up. Steam is super easy to install. Yeah. And once you have Steam installed, it's click of a button to load games. Yep. So this is really neat. And Steam has also been added to the Canonical software, or Ubuntu Software Center. So users that are more familiar with installing software that way, like new users, will be able to find links to... install Steam right from there.
And that's cool. It makes it real easy. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Get to playing. Good stuff.
Now, there's been one game that's been absent since we did our must-try games episode a couple of weeks ago. And it was promised for Linux back in January, but some delays hit. They ran into delays.
Sure.
And I'm talking about The Cave from Double Fine. But if you follow them on the tweeters, then you will see a tweet that said it's coming on Tuesday.
As in like this Tuesday.
As in like this coming Tuesday after this episode comes out. And if we look right here in my Steam library, Matt, let me fire this up.
Alrighty.
You will see that I actually already have The Cave downloaded. Of course, it doesn't actually run yet because it's not fully integrated into Steam yet. They don't have all the executables there, but I already have the icon. And then once they publish the game to Steam, it'll do an update, and I'll have the executable with the buttons here. It's ready for me to play. But I just can't hit it. Now, why am I freaking out about this game called The Cave?
Yeah, why are you so excited about what's this draw that I keep hearing about?
Well, I'm a fan of the platformer.
Okay,
and this is the platformer that would make any platformer fan, or maybe somebody just lukewarm want to try it out. It's called The Cave, and I want to just play a little bit of their trailer. Okay.
For hundreds, nay thousands, nay tens of thousands of years, people have come to me in search of what they desire most. Few find what they are looking for, even fewer ever leave. Welcome to The Cave. Yes, I'm a talking cave. I have a really interesting story to tell you this evening, so pay attention. It's a story of 7 people and a glimpse into a dark place in each of their hearts. The adventurer She is hot on the trail of her lost companions and unequaled ancient treasure. The hillbilly. On this fine night, he searches for his true love. The scientist. She is on the cusp of a great discovery for all of humankind. The monk. He seeks a journey filled with peace and enlightenment and murder.
All right, we should cut it off there because I don't want us to get pulled.
And murder.
So I couldn't resist. I ended up playing a little bit on my Hackintosh because I couldn't wait, and it has been so much fun. I guess it's more of an adventure game, not so much a platformer as the chat room is correct.
It could go either way, but I can see where it definitely kind of leans more into the adventure.
But my son and I have been playing this, and we really, really love it so far. And I've only played it for about 2 hours, but it's been a ton of fun. So once it's available on Tuesday,
I may check that out. Actually, that looks like a lot of fun.
It might. Also, there's a chance because it's happening during this big Steam sale that it might get included. It might get wrapped up in that Steam sale. If this is on sale at all, I think I paid like $15 or something. I can't remember. Right. If it's on sale, it's so worth it. I would. It's the cave.
And that sale's when now? Tuesday.
I mean, if you bought it, you could buy it at full price, and then it'll be available.
We'll wait till Tuesday, but I think it's worth it. I think I would probably pick that up.
All right, Matt, let's shift gears a little bit. Stop talking about video games, and let's talk a little bit about Chromebooks.
Yes.
Now, you've probably, if you've been following the news, seen there's been more and more pickup recently in at least what appears to be more pickup in Chrome OS.
There has
and Stephen J. Von Nichols over at ZDNet points out that now Acer, HP, Lenovo, and some Samsung are all shipping Chromebooks. These are typically Microsoft ally companies that are focused exclusively on shipping Windows products, at least a lot of times. Not necessarily exclusive, but definitely a big portion of their business.
Focus, yeah.
Acer CEO said that the Windows 8 itself, this is a direct quote, is not successful. He said 5 to 10% of its U.S. shipments are now Chromebooks. This is Acer saying 5 to 10% of its U.S. shipments are now Chromebook. Now, what's crazy about that is Acer introduced its Chromebook in November of 2012. So in less than 3 months, Chromebooks went from 0 to at least 5% of Acer's U.S. shipments.
Well, and I think it's interesting that people are beginning to realize that, hey, here's something that is not going to have the problems that they're experiencing with their past experiences with Windows. That is dirt cheap, really. It's very portable. It's all nicely contained, and it does everything they want it to. Comes with a ton of web-based apps that they can use.
That was a point he says. He says Chromebooks are the first major cloud-based end-user device. When you buy a Chromebook, you don't just get a standard device with Chrome OS. You get cloud storage, Google Docs, Office Suite, Gmail, on and on. In short, for one low price, Chromebook gives you everything. You think about it, and we're not talking in the way we in the open source community think of things.
No, this isn't us. This is Joe Average out in the
or maybe corporations.
Exactly.
Or schools, right? They look at the cost of Office as $200-$300 just for a copy of Office. So you buy a Chromebook for $200-$300, and you get Google Docs with it.
Exactly. Well, and even Office 365, that online thing, they're not even offering that for free anymore. They give you a trial, and you got to pay for it again. So it's like this is a great deal for them.
It's interesting because Linux was surging ahead when the netbooks were becoming big, and Vista was just totally a dog on there. And it wasn't until Microsoft retooled and got XP working again. Remember, they kept extending XP for the netbook? Yep. Will we see Microsoft in response do the same thing with Windows 7 to help combat the Chromebook? I don't know.
I think so, and here's why.
Okay.
First of all, when this happened with Vista, I remember we used to see the signs in the repair shops that said, "Hey, we'll throw you back on XP. We offer that as a service."
You see that now for 7.
We're seeing that with 7 now, and that was the same type of action we saw back then. I think that's a causality that if enough Microsoft partners are doing that, Microsoft's going to clue in and say, "Oh, maybe we should do that."
Well, and TechCrunch ran an article here said Google is claiming that 2,000 schools now use Chromebooks, twice as many as just 3 months ago. Yeah. So they're seeing a big uptick in school use.
Yeah.
School use, and then also CDW just made a press release saying that they're going to sell an enterprise integration. From everything from the sale of the Chromebook to a management dashboard for Chromebooks for enterprise.
Oh, wow.
So they're wrapping this up for like this mobile
That's where Microsoft
solution.
Needs to be scared, is the enterprise space, because that's their one space that no one's really been able to, at least on the desktop.
Well, and Microsoft has pretty competitive offerings for schools.
Yeah.
but again, the Chromebook.
Well, yeah, and Microsoft tends to throw money around, but especially at schools. But I think in this particular case, it comes down to that's great, Microsoft, but we're still locked into your formats, we're locked into your DocX, and we're locked into all this stuff, and we kind of like to have that control.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we have a story about the Munich study coming up in a little bit. But one last little point on the Chrome OS. I'm really on the fence on Chromebooks. I find it to be insufficient and just not up to my needs. But that's because I feel like I can use a tablet in those scenarios. But I could totally see how that's not necessarily true for everybody. So I'm not judgy about it.
For me, not interested. For my family, oh heck yes,
sure.
It makes sense because it does what they need it to do. For myself, I want a powerful, Ubuntu or other Linux distribution on my desktop.
And we've got people in our chat room right now who are on Chromebooks.
And and they do. They're solid little devices. They're attractive. They work. They're great.
Yeah,
awesome.
So just kind of coincidentally, Jeff Nielsen, who was the creator of the Chrome OS.
Oh yeah.
At Google, did a blog post this last week about the creation of the Chromebook and how it sort of came to be and why he chose Linux and all these kinds of things. So I grabbed some of the highlights, but you guys can read the whole post.
Sure.
He says he first started working on his first revision as early as July 2006.
Wow.
Chrome OS was not originally written for Chrome or even called Chrome OS. The first version was all based on Firefox.
Oh, that's interesting.
When I wrote the first version in 2006, Google had not yet even started developing a web browser of its own, nor had the name Chrome existed as a Google product. Chrome versions followed in 2007 after internal beta test versions of Chrome started to be passed around inside Google. Chromebook was definitely not intended to be another device for the web. The first versions were bare-bones Linux distributions, but fully functional for many tasks, including code development for a Google engineer. I myself used versions of the Chromebook exclusively every day for over a year as my primary development box, taking on business trips and even some airplanes. The main top priority of Chromebook originally was not to write a web app-only operating system. In fact, the main priority when I started constructing the operating system was the need for speed to create a super fast operating system. I was restarting my web browser frequently, sometimes hundreds of times a day, to clear browser cache and cookies as part of the development process, often taking 30 to 45 seconds, whether IE or Firefox, Linux or Windows. The solution? I decided I would write an OS and move the entire desktop operating system into RAM. By moving the entire system into RAM, that immediately took off the table the large performance bottleneck to the operating system, file I/O. When discussing the RAM resident architecture of the original versions of Chromebook, nearly everyone expresses concerns about data loss. In fact, data loss was not a problem for several reasons. First, many tasks were performed as web apps, so as long as the web apps were written well, there was really no possibility of data loss there.
That's interesting. Okay.
He goes on to say that that's how the seeds of web apps in the Chromium desktop began, albeit originally written for HTML and Firefox. And that's how they were planted.
Wow. So, it begs the question, could we eventually see Chromebooks that go back to their roots for power users?
I was wondering the same thing.
Because that would be interesting. So you got your newbie Chromebooks, but then you got Chromebooks maybe that are more targeted at its original setup. That's fascinating.
I would say if they really wanted to take it to Microsoft and the enterprise, they might need to go more in that direction.
And I think they could. And that's the interesting thing is it would be so reasonably simple.
And have you seen the new windowing UI?
Yeah.
It's a lot more traditional than Windows 8 Metro is.
It is. And I think that's what's driving people toward that direction.
Maybe. I think also people want cheap people. There is still
cost is a factor. Sure.
There's still a market for the netbook.
I've been saying that for years.
Isn't this netbook 2.0?
Yeah. I've run a netbook, there is definitely a market for that. So I think there's a market for a low barrier to entry unit.
So you remember, we didn't really cover it on the show because I knew it was bogus from the very beginning, and I do not like to cover bogus Microsoft propaganda on the Linux Action Show. Surprise, surprise. But you might have heard that Microsoft, in conjunction with HP, released this study that said that Munich switch to Linux and OpenOffice was way, way, way more expensive than if they would have gone with Windows and Microsoft Office. Did you hear about this a couple weeks ago?
I believe it was a ZDNet article.
Yeah, it was in the subreddit, and it was a summary from a Microsoft-sponsored report. And as soon as you heard that, we knew we weren't going to run it in the show.
Yep.
Well, so City of Munich has a few thoughts on this study.
Nice.
They're going to come back and hit Microsoft in the mouth with a few facts. So here we go. The city is currently migrating, just as a reminder to folks, 13,000 computers from Windows NT 4 and Microsoft Office 97. So, geez, they're way behind.
Wow. Overdue.
To a custom build of Ubuntu and OpenOffice as part of its Linux project.
Wow.
A further 2,000 computers will stay on Windows but are being switched to OpenOffice. This move began in 2004 and will be completed in the autumn of this year. In total, the Linux project will cost 23 million euros compared to the 34 million that the authority has estimated it would cost if they stuck to Windows and Office and upgraded there. Of course, this should be this upgrade cycle, not continue an ongoing upgrade cost. Now, here's what's interesting. Munich's figures of the cost of 23 million euros were challenged by a study produced by HP on behalf of Microsoft, which claimed the Linux project, in fact, would cost 60 million euros. Which is considerably more than the 23 that the authority was
I'd say so. Big difference.
The report claimed that migrating to Windows XP and Microsoft Office would only cost 17 million. So they're saying if you went with Microsoft, you're only going to spend 17 million, but if you go with Linux, you're going to spend 60 million. Meanwhile, the authority is saying it's going to cost us 23 million to switch to Linux. Now here's the problem, and surprise, surprise on the assumptions. Faulty assumptions, according to a representative from the city of Munich. Sorry, I'm saying it wrong, but it's best.
You get the idea. Yeah.
The HP study assumes support costs for 12,000 clients running Linux OS currently. However, the number of clients running Linux in that period has actually been far lower as migration has been taking place at a gradual momentum and will only reach 13,000 this year. So they went retroactively and said, "Oh, you have to support 12,000 desktops this whole time." So they're claiming these costs for desktops that don't exist.
Right.
But Munich's saying, "Well, no, we're doing this gradual progression to save on costs." The report also overestimated the number of IT staff working on the project by putting it at 1,000, which is the total number of IT staff working for Munich.
Boom.
So they way overblew the staffing estimation, which is going to, of course, that's going to drive up the cost, of course.
Well, it was the only thing they had to reach for. They're certainly not reaching for licensing costs, so obviously they're reaching for anything they can have, and that's going to be man hours. That's all they got.
You're right.
We'll inflate that number, you know.
They said the cost of porting other business applications used by the authority to Linux, estimated by Microsoft, ran tens of millions of euros. They say that's also exaggerated as Microsoft failed to acknowledge, or HP in this case, the extent of which web-based apps can be used on Linux without significant modifications.
Exactly.
That seems to be something they miss quite often.
Yeah, well,
that seems to be a trend.
Because they know, it's a total Admiral Akbar kind of situation here. I mean, truly it is. So
it's a trap.
It's a trap. You know, total fish head guy. So it's totally one of those situations to where they know this going into it. They know that they're full of beans. They know that they're basically they rather than trying to dodge the truth, they basically try to run over it with a truck, and it's not working for them.
Yeah.
So,
so they also got the hardware costs wrong. They estimated,
which is like.
They estimated wrong on the hardware expenses and got upgrade.
It's kind of frightening when a company like HP who does hardware gets hardware costs wrong. That's really scary.
And then when ZDNet reached out for a comment from Microsoft said that the study is reliable from their perspective.
Oh yeah, sure.
Cites numerous sources.
Yeah, sure.
And here's the punchline: the city of Munich will be provided with a summary of this study. A summary without the details, right?
Of course not.
Moreover, we are available to the city anytime if it wants to discuss the study in further detail.
You know, they say there's nothing more dangerous than a wounded, cornered animal, and I think Microsoft is definitely wounded and cornered.
This is a sales technique. So what I would do when I was a technical sales lead is I would come in and I would do a network evaluation for a potential new client.
Okay.
I used to do client services for another company before I went on and did it myself.
Sure.
So they would send me in and I would do a complete evaluation of their network, and I would be honest, but you know, everything that's bad is real bad, right? Everything you find really needs to be addressed. You know, you always, the whole idea, they don't tell you to do it, but the whole idea is you need to generate problems just enough to scare them. That way they bring you in the door and you sit down and then you can sell.
Right.
Once they get you at the table, you can sell. And what that report does is it gets you in, it gets you on the phone, it gets you at the table, and then you sell. And then Microsoft starts offering discounts, and Microsoft starts offering, whatever. Once they're sitting down.
And usually there's a little bit of a glass ceiling there. Those discounts are great for a while until it's maybe a couple years later and you got to re-up something. Oh, sorry, it's back to full price now. Yeah. That's not uncommon.
Last couple bits of news before we get out of here. Sebian 11 is out. It is, of course, a rolling distro, but they take snapshots from time to time. Includes kernel 3.7, GNOME 3.6.2, and KDE 4.9.5, which will be upgraded to 4.10.01 as soon as it's available. XFCE 4.10 is in there.
Solid.
Mate 1.4. Also, starting with Sebian 11, all x86, x64 images will support secure boot.
Nicely done, fellas.
And they've also got Optimus support
Ooh, even
built in.
Right on. Good job, fellas. Good job.
So that's looking hot.
Props.
And of course, one of the other big stories this week is Ubuntu Phone images are to be made available next week. They're calling it the Ubuntu Touch Preview.
Okay.
It's an interesting...
Good terminology.
It's interesting.
It's like beta on Gmail back in the day. If there's anything that goes wrong, hey, it's a preview.
Well, it's almost like they're not even calling it the Phone OS. They're just calling it, well, we're just testing the Touch in a way with that name.
That's okay.
And the Touch install process, we have a linked wiki page that will be updated on the 21st. And let's see, the 21st is going to be Thursday of next week.
Yes,
the Thursday of the week that this came out. We have a link in the show notes that'll give you a little app you can download. So we're going to talk about this next week. I'm going to load this on my Galaxy Nexus and give you a review, and I'll try to record the installation process and give you an overview of that.
That would be cool. I'm really interested to see where the application development goes with it, because I think they're going to do fine with all the goodies as far as the interface and all. I think that'll all work itself out. What I'm curious about is to how application development and how application integration. What are Android users going to end up doing? You know, they've got like a sister project, I think, that actually is running Android stuff.
Yeah, where you can dual boot or whatever.
Yeah, so so they've got their sister project. So I'm curious to how all that comes together. It's going to be fascinating.
Be interesting to watch. So we'll get our hands on it, and
definitely
we'll have our expectations set. We'll calibrate our expectations.
Always like calibrating those.
Yeah, I always got to calibrate those. All right, Matt. Well, that's all the news for this week. Matt, it's time we do Cron a little justice here on the podcast. It's been a shame we haven't talked about this. Before we get into that, I want to say thank you to our segment sponsor, System 76, the creators of machines built and designed to run Ubuntu Linux. If you want a hassle-free experience, let me tell you something. I take this Bonobo out here, I sit down, I plug into the HDMI port, and Bob's your uncle, I get the screen output. Exactly. As it should be.
Without any configuration, without any headaches, it just works.
It just works out of the box. And, actually, they build them with Ubuntu in mind, but I've had no problem with any other distro as well.
And that's the beauty of it, is that if it works for one distro, generally speaking, it's going to work great for all of them.
You know, it's something we never talk about. Just a real quick mention, because System 76, we're always talking about their desktops, we're always talking about their laptops, but they're getting serious into the servers, and they just launched some new servers too. So if you're in the market for some Linux-powered servers and you want a solid support behind that with people who really know the operating system, where they're not going to try to pawn it off on the OS vendor every time you call up. Check out what they've got. These guys are really, really, really doing some good stuff in the server hardware.
And I think the U2 is their newest. I believe the Jackal Pro U2 is their. They just updated. They just did a refresh here recently. Really good stuff.
It's a nice looking machine. I like one. I might want one of these towers for
that would be
my house.
Good looking machine.
All right, Matt. So
nice.
Cron. Well, I guess let's just up front. Cron is a daemon that executes scheduled commands on a Linux box.
Okay.
What it does is it searches what's called the spool area, which is located, say, on an Ubuntu system at var spool cron tabs, and then under there's an entry. There's a text entry file.
So they're text files that
for every user that has a cron tab, right?
Okay, understand.
You shouldn't edit these directly. There is a specific Crontab Editor, which we'll get into. And if you think of it, it's like I've heard it explained in a Slashdot comment that Cron was the peak of programming, because it allows you to take advantage of what computers should do for us at a fundamental level, is automate and make our lives easier. So if you need something to happen on a scheduled basis once, or on a repeating, every Monday.
On a schedule, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. The Cron is how you get it done. There's things that happen on your machine all the time out of the box that are happening with Cron you don't even know about.
And it's so functional, it's so dependable that I think we've actually lost touch with how important it is.
I agree. It's one of those things that takes care of us. It's kind of like we don't really think about our lungs or our heart a lot.
True,
exactly.
In our body, yeah, we just breathe. Well, you just Cron, right?
You just Cron. So let's start out with some of the basics. So I'm on an Ubuntu 12.10, but it's going to be very similar for just about everybody out there. I'm in the var spool cron tabs directory right now. Okay. And if I do an ls here, you'll see I don't have any entry for Chris F. That's my user account.
Okay, gotcha.
I have one for the Gnats account, okay? That means that I, as my own user account, have not yet set up a cron tab. So nothing is scheduling on behalf of me automatically.
Okay, nothing's in the box.
If you take a look at your box, in the Etsy directory, you'll see there's a cron.d, and then cron.daily, cron.hourly, and cron.monthly, and cron.weekly, right there in Etsy. And any script that gets stashed in these cron daily, hourly, monthly, or weekly folders will get run daily, hourly, monthly, or weekly.
Pretty simple.
So here I am. I'm in the daily directory right now, okay? So let's see what my Linux box does on a daily basis. So if you leave your system running 24/7, one of these scripts will get ran. And you can see there's quite a few in here, right?
Well, this is interesting. So this, for instance, is how the updates happen automatically when you set it to do. It's using Cron.
Let's look at a great one. So something you probably never think about is you have that var log directory on your computer. But do you ever think about the fact that those logs have to be rotated, cleaned up, and compressed, or else they just sit there and consume all of the hard drive space on your computer?
They would over time.
So your distribution ships with a cron daily script where it goes through. You can see here, it's cding into this var lib log rotate. It's getting status messages. It's touching files. That's how it's leaving itself.
It's a nice little bash script there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also referring to this log rotate.conf file. And so I know that whatever config set in there, that's what it's going to execute every time. So that's just one example of something that runs every single day. But let's say I wanted to set something up on the command line.
Okay.
So here I am as Chris F. And if you remember, over in the cron tabs folder, there was no file for Chris F.
I remember. Yep.
Okay.
That was pretty much empty.
So if I want to schedule something, there's a lot of ways you can do it. We'll show you on the command line real quick. If you want to edit a cron tab, you type in the command crontab-e.
For edit, I would
That brings up the Crontab Editor. And the reason why you want to do this is because there's special formatting in the Crontab file. The first time you run it on a lot of distros, it'll ask you, what editor are you more familiar with?
Oh, and I like the fact that for the audio listeners here, it actually has a list of 3, and it points out which of the 3 editors is the easiest.
And in this case, it's going to say Nano, so let's go with Nano. I mean, you could use
my go-to editor.
All right, so so now what it's done is it's copied from the templates directory a blank Crontab file me with lots of documentation here and an example. And okay, but let's just say, all right, that's great. All right, so sounds good. So I'll write this file out and hit exit, and now I should now see a file entry in here for Chris F.
So there we go. There it is, Chris F.
So now I have a Crontab file for Chris F. And now my cron daemon will check this file, and anything I have scheduled in that file, it will execute when it reads it.
Oh, fantastic!
And it will execute it as Chris F.
And it looks like there you actually checked to see. Well, okay, you did a list, and you actually checked to see when these things would run. And it's actually giving you.
Oh, yeah. This is just the file creation date.
Now, file creation date.
The way to define when it would run.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see that.
The way to define when it would be run would be what you define in the Crontab file itself.
I understand. Right. So the edit itself.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Now, we'll show you some examples of some Crontab files.
Yeah.
But if you're just getting started with Cron, I think what a lot of people struggle with in Cron is the syntax. That's
what I would. Yeah.
It's a little weird in the sense that if you're not totally familiar with it, and I have an example image I'll load up for the visual folks.
That would be cool.
And we also will have a little reference in the show notes. So if you guys are not following the way the Crontab file's laid out, we have a reference in the show notes you can look at.
No, this is helpful. Okay, now we got colors.
Yeah, so it's got you have the first row is the minute, the second row is the hour, then you have day of month, then the actual month, then the day of the week, then the user it runs as, and then the actual command to execute. So if you wanted something to run at say 1:30 a.m. every single day, you would put 30 in the first column.
Right.
You'd put 1 in the second column, and then the day of the month would either be 1 or 30, all of them, whatever you'd want. And so we'll have this in the show notes if you're working on your first cron tab and you're not really sure on the layout. And remember, on a lot of distros, they put an example up above too in the cron tabs. You can always follow that as well. Now, that still might be a little overwhelming for some folks.
2 questions that they actually, some of the viewers may have. I noticed that what appear to be wildcards there at the top.
Oh, yeah.
So I assume that basically would act as a wildcard like it would in anything. Okay.
So you could do like 30 for the minute, and you could do a wild card in the hour range. Okay. So then it would do every hour at 30 minutes, run this command.
Super. Okay. Yeah. Good to know.
Yeah. So let's talk about maybe a few things you could do with Cron through a GUI, and then we'll show some example Crontab files, okay?
Cool.
All right. So the one that it comes built in with a lot of distros is called Gnome Schedule, I believe, right? Yeah, Gnome Scheduled Tasks. And if it's not, it's probably in your repo.
Super easy to get.
This one's really funny too, Matt, because when I show this to you, it is such a shining example of the difference between a GNOME app and a KDE app.
It is, yeah.
I don't mean to, I'm not picking.
It's true. It's true.
But it really,
he's right.
All right, so this is going to edit my Crontab file for me instead of doing it through the text file. And so I hit new right here, and it comes up and says, do you want a task that launches recurringly?
Yeah.
Do you want a task that just launches one time? Or do you want to copy? If you have some templates, you can also do that. I don't have any templates yet. So
we'll skip that.
Let's do a reoccurring task, okay?
Okay.
And we'll call this podcast downloader, right?
Okay, sure.
Podcaster. And I would put in my command line here, I would put the path to my podcast catching script.
Especially if you had like a little bash script, that'd be great because you could run that in the background.
We've covered some of those in our bash episodes. So you just put that you'd put the path to that right there. There. And then say maybe you want it to run every day.
Okay. And now the default behavior, does that do anything special or?
Right here?
Yeah.
You can so if there's errors, you can actually have it kick out errors.
Nice.
If there's not, if you can have it suppress the errors. That's the kind of things you would set there. Yeah.
So probably just leave that alone.
Which
depending on what unless you're having problems.
So if you know so for a podcast catcher, maybe there's a feed that's not working, and you know it's going to be down for a while, and you don't want to see the error every time in your log. You could say suppress that.
Okay, nice.
So by default, if you say every day, it's going to run right at midnight. Or you could actually get in here and you could define the specific time, which is nice, right? And when you're all done, you say add.
Oh, and you can add it as a template as well. That's
you could save it as a template.
That's,
so you have
that's
it in the future,
nice,
right?
Yeah, totally.
And so there you go. So that's very much simpler than the text file.
Much simpler. And it does the same thing. It's almost a nice entrance level to it. Once you get used to this, then you can migrate to the text file.
I would say this is as easy as Windows Task Scheduler.
Yeah.
And what's neat is when you click on the Advanced button, you actually get to see the Crontab syntax that it used a little bit.
And there's the learning.
So you see how it's using the wildcards there?
Exactly.
Because I said every day at midnight.
See, I could see this being a learning tool right here. When you click Advanced, you then are understanding. Oh, that's the cause and effect of that's what it's doing.
The other thing that's neat is if you just want to make sure you got your syntax right, you can actually execute the task immediately. From right here,
Well, that's a nice test.
Yeah, mine's not really going to give us much because it's an ls of an empty directory. But if you were running your podcast script or something like that, it would give you that. All right, so another one you can use, which is neat if you add it from your repo. What I like about this one, especially if you're on KDE, is it integrates right in with your regular system settings area.
Nice. Very
tight. It's called Task Scheduler, and you just launch Task Scheduler, and you can see there it sees the cron job I added.
Okay,
that's what's great because you're just using cron. All of these different front ends are they're all talking to the same thing at the end of the day.
Love it.
So now, watch what happens when I hit new task. A lot more buttons on this screen. Yeah, like a lot of buttons on this.
It's
screen.
A KDE. Yeah.
But here I get to say I want this to maybe you want to do a quarterly backup. I want to do a backup in January, or maybe you want to do a backup in June and November. You said it this one time.
Now that I look at it, I actually think this is probably better because it's more visual. Yeah. And I don't think that's necessarily a negative thing.
You get to see all of your options up at once, whereas in the other one, you go into different modes.
Okay. It's a little scary at first, but once you look at it, it's actually pretty straightforward.
And the other thing that's nice about this one is you could set kind of some wanky, out there stuff.
Yeah.
And so we'll just do another command. We'll do ls, and we'll just say ls/opt or whatever. I don't know.
Just random whatever. Yeah.
Or... we'll do a ps -ax. Why not?
Command action there. Cool.
And we'll say, you could say run at system boot up.
Nice.
But we'll say on Sunday, and so I'm putting different stuff in here because I want to show you the output that it generates. And we'll say run at 1 a.m. and 1:15 p.m. and we'll say let's do maybe at 15 minutes after the hour. Okay,
sure, works for me.
All right. So I hit OK. I hit apply. Now, let's bring my terminal back up.
Okay.
Where's my terminal? And let's go look at my Crontab files. Okay. So if we see, here's... let's go find my Crontab here, man. Let's go find... There we go. Here's the Crontabs. And we go look at that there Chris F file.
Yes.
You see there's a lot. There's
that's what it created.
You see right here? Yep. So there's the one that the GNOME scheduler made, and then here's the one that the KDE scheduler made.
And what's interesting is because it's all cron, even though you use two different editors to create these, the
syntax is still valid.
Syntax,
and so you can look at that and say, this is how I set this up.
So cool. So I think these are really good learning tools. What a great way to not overwhelm yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people have avoided cron. We've gotten emails about it, and the general sense that I get is people get overwhelmed trying to look at it. Now, in the show notes, we've included links to the programs we've talked about, including some how-tos and a training video from a local Seattle training company.
Nice.
It's about 6 minutes long, and you can watch it. It's Cron 101, cool. And we have a link to that in the show notes as well. And then, Matt, you have a link to a couple of apps.
I do.
The first one that's great is if you set up Cron to do something, but you don't leave your machine running all the time.
Right.
This one, you've mentioned it once before on the show, but I think it's called Wake on Plan.
Wake on Plan. So basically, it will turn your computer on.
And this one actually more talks to your RTC clock than it does Cron, but the idea would be you could set it to turn on at, say, 6 a.m., and then you could have Cron go out and refresh all your RSS feeds at 6:30 a.m., and by the time you sit down at your desktop, you're ready to go.
It's kind of like, you know, how you have coffee that'll start itself in the morning. You got to set on a timer. This is literally, it's like I got my RSS reader being updated. I got my my mailbox has been opened and checked. I'm not waiting to, and especially if you got a big inbox, you know, a lot of stuff going on. You can do all this stuff automatically. Let it work for you.
The other thing I was thinking about is, you know, at my app pick, piano bar.
Yes.
It's command line.
Totally.
You could execute it with Cron, and it could be your alarm clock, or it could just be, you know, when you get in the morning to your office, music is playing, whatever you want.
What a great way to enter your office, too, I tell you.
And then the flip side of that, so that's wake on plan to turn your machine on, and then to shut it down, there's G shutdown.
Yep.
And what's really neat about this is it's essentially you set a timer. It'll do a pseudo power off, so the machine actually turns off. It gives you an applet too, right?
I believe it does give you an applet, and more importantly, it's like if you're running a lot of cron stuff before you're getting ready to call it a day, you've already left the office, and it's got some cleaning up and things to do. Once that's done, this will then shut your computer off for you. And one thing I should mention though, for Ubuntu 12.10 users, there is a workaround that is needed to get it to work, and we'll make sure to include that in the show notes. But it's great.
Yeah, there's a little. Yeah.
Very cool.
So that's one way to turn your machine on, have it do things for you automatically, and then use G shutdown to turn it off.
Exactly. It's all about making your machine work for you instead of you working for it.
So I wanted to just show a couple example cron tabs that were sent in by the live audience.
This is cool.
You can see, so here's one where he's got a shell script that he's written, and he has it going out at different times and doing different tasks for him.
Right. Well, that's cool.
I like this one. This is a cron tab to back up your cron tab, or a cron entry to back up your cron tab. So,
you know, honestly, that's smart.
Yeah.
Why not?
Here you go at noon every day. He's listing out his cron tab. And then, so that's another command, crontab-L, which I probably should have showed. Yep. Crontab-L will list your cron tab, and if you really screw up, I'm doing it as root. If you really screw up your cron and you want to start over, crontab-R will wipe it out. But see, if I do a crontab-L, there's my
that's cool.
Tab.
Right on.
Yeah, and then here's one from Crash Benedict. This one's really great because you see he's saying every 5 minutes. Every hour, every day of the month, on display 0, change my wallpaper.
That's awesome.
And he's got a little command here to change his wallpaper, and I'll link to this in the show notes.
That's cool.
Yeah, every 5 minutes, a little cron script runs and does that. And
that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certainly apps to do that, but I think it's cool to be able to do it, to learn, you know, by using these tools, you learn more about cron and become more effective.
I'll link to that in the show notes because Matt Jones is saying it's a little hard to read. I know because it's paste-bin, so the text is small. So what, one of the things I use cron jobs for is backups constantly, and then the place that I'm working at right now uses rsync extensively through cron. So what happens is a cron scheduled task starts, it launches a bash script, which then starts up rsync, which then logs into the remote web server over SSH and moves all of the user's working files over to the web server about every 15 minutes. So the users they're constantly updating this website with plans and diagrams and images and project documents, and they get all these different stuff in and they put it all together and they do QA testing on it all, and then they put it in the staging area, and then every 15 minutes that cron script runs and it moves everything from the staging area. It moves into the spot where we have a bunch of scripts that do validation checking on it. Nice. Those are executed by cron, and then after that it gets moved off to the production web server, all automatically.
Oh, you gotta love
that.
It
runs every 15 minutes, 24/7,
and you don't have to think about it. It's just done.
Anytime there's a task like that, making a backup of your system or updating your locate database, anything like that, cron can do it for you automatically. Go into your Etsy, cron.daily and cron.weekly directories, and look what your distribution's doing for you automatically. You've never looked in there. And
might discover some things. You're like, that's how that works.
It's really cool. So, like I said, go check out the resources that we have in the show notes. I think that it's a little dry. That's why I didn't want to play it in the video. But the cron tutorial, Cron 101, 6 minutes of your life. And at the end of it, you'll have a very complete picture of how cron works, and then you can get out there and go play with that
Absolutely. Stuff. And something that occurs to me, I just had a pondering of Austin Powers and random task. Could that man have been a cron job?
Oh.
A
cron job?
A cron
It's
job.
a cron job?
Just saying.
All right, Matt, that's the Linux Action Show's look at that silly old cron. All right, Matt, and that brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. Now, before we get out of here, we're going to cover some feedback and open up a loot crate, because that's my favorite thing to do now. Go ahead, start opening it.
We're going to open it? Crack this bad boy open? All right.
I have selected a couple of emails and a couple of threads from the subreddit that we should get through, including a PSA about Steam that I want to... Oh, right on. We got a Domo.
I got that shirt.
Now we got to find a way to stash him somewhere on the set for the rest of the episode.
Not sure what. Oh, it's a little band. Okay, so we got Honey Badger Don't Care.
Honey Badger Don't Care.
He's got a little.
You don't mind if he sits right here, do you?
Absolutely not.
Okay. No.
You know, I totally picture like a wrestling match happening here.
All right. What else we got here? What else we got in here?
Oh, sweet.
This is an Atari joystick thing of mints. Atari gum. Fruit flavored Atari logo gum.
It's
in a
it's old Atari. And it actually works.
It actually, yeah.
It's 1337 somewhere.
1337. I get it.
That's funny. Little bottle opener. That's cool.
Now that is an awesome. So this one was their December box, I think, because look, it's got a little sticker Santa on here. Now I don't know if that's going to go on the laptop, man.
That may be, yeah, but that may not be laptop.
That's like a vinyl sticker, though.
I think this is too. This is like a.
It's like a really fancy sticker.
Yeah, this is a vinyl action there.
Yeah, that's like a very high end sticker.
Very, very fancy.
I like that. Very nice.
So, and then we got the wristband, Geek Gamer Split Personality Wristband.
I'm gonna open up this tin of.
Check that out.
What do you say?
That's pretty cool. Wow. I think this is worth the win though, because I'm telling you, man, I can actually see setting up like a ring and just having them. You know,
I like getting some to put. I like getting. Oh, I see. It's 1337 where Icarus is right now.
We'll see. There you go.
I like putting things in my mouth, so that's what I like about getting.
Okay.
Yeah, look at that. That's cool.
That works.
And then you could use.
That is actually really cool. That'd be useful for
stashing all kinds of things, Matt. Matt.
For the stash.
Matt.
Marge's stash.
Hey, it's legal in Washington. Get off his back.
That's right.
All right. Should we get to some feedback here,
sure.
Mr. Matt? All right.
Absolutely.
So the first one that we'll get to is, I just thought it was an interesting thread in our subreddit this week. Tell me about your best all-in-one media center solution.
Oh.
Now, have we talked about what you and I do for our media centers?
We've touched on it, but we haven't talked about it recently, I don't think.
You start.
So I think for myself, I have an interesting setup. At one time, I had a laptop, of course, running XBMC.
Yeah, buddy.
And that was all set up for me, and that was great. You know, I even had IR remote and all this sort of stuff, and it was fine. But it was still a laptop and it was kind of bulky. So I thought to myself, boy, you know, this is a real pain in the tukish. So I decided, all right, I'm going to try this. I'm going to kick this up a little bit. I took an old Apple TV 2. And I basically jailbroke it, and then I put XBMC on that sucker, SSH'd into it, did what I needed to do there, and from that point on, I now have XBMC on an Apple TV 2.
That's nice because it's quiet.
It's quiet. It works, and you know, you can Samba in or SSH in or whatever you want to do to other media, you know, upstairs or whatever it may be, and it's very spouse friendly. I found that my wife doesn't complain about the fact that there's a big honking laptop sitting next to the TV anymore, and she's really impressed with that. So
she likes the remote. XBMC?
She actually likes the content. She didn't care what's running. But
she doesn't mind the interface, though?
She doesn't. She loves the interface because it's a small, you know, low profile remote. It's just less.
Yeah. Oh, you're able to use the Apple remote with XBMC?
Oh yeah, and you can use all the existing Apple functions. It doesn't dysfunction anything.
So you can still boot into the Apple TV?
You can.
Oh, okay.
You get your trailers and all that.
That's where you do
stuff.
the Netflix?
That's where we do our Netflix. Well, we also have a Roku. A Roku as well.
And Roku's great too.
Roku's awesome. So we have Roku. So basically, at the end of the day, we got Netflix, Hulu. We've got an Amazon Prime account, and of course, we have various Amazon options there. And then of course, we got our Apple TV and all the goodies with XBMC that come onto that.
Now, see, my setup is one that I have to change because I bought into the Boxy Box in a big way, and I as a Rev 1 product, it is really great, and it's a shame that they're kind of moving away from the local media, and they're going to like this internet PVR system they want to do. But I have the old traditional Boxy Box, which is a Linux box. It supports local media. I've not been able to throw anything at it. ISOs, anything that it can do, and it's I think Boxy is actually based on XBMC as well.
I think it is.
So that's what I've been using. Because it has apps.
It does everything you need it to do.
But now that they're discontinuing this type of machine, I think I'm going to do a XBMC build.
Yeah, and I tell you, just make sure it's an Apple TV 2, and I'll set you up with the instructions for it because it's a nice little jailbreak. Actually, it works out pretty well.
I think for the bedroom, I'll try an Apple TV 2. Yeah, and I think for the main living room, I think I'm going to do a full PC,
like a low profile deal.
Yeah, I want to really have right. I want to play some high bit rates.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Yeah. So that's how we do it, but mine's kind of in flux. And you can go, we'll have this thread linked in the show notes if you want to go read what some other folks in the subreddit are doing for
Yeah,
their
we'd be
home
interested in
video
hearing,
solutions.
going there and seeing what you guys do for your media setups, because maybe you're doing some Plex, maybe you're doing some other things.
Yeah, you see here's some XBMC and TV head-end combos. You got some Myth TV action going on in here. You got some Subsonic, a Mahi server, and lots of different stuff.
Some
So
Raspberry Pi with XBMC. I bet there's some of that floating around.
Oh yeah, I mean this is stuff I'm going to be playing with too. So if I get into a really interesting setup, I might just talk about it here on the very show.
Nice.
Quick PSA, we've mentioned this before, but now that Steam is officially out for Linux, if you've had issues getting Flash videos working in your Steam client, we have a link in the show notes that tells you how to fix that.
Nice little workaround.
Now, we have a question that came in from Nye, and he says, Hi, Matt and Chris. He says he loves the show, and he likes the app picks.
Cool.
So, we've got another vote for the app picks. We got a lot of feedback saying keep the app picks.
Yeah, quite a bit, actually.
He has a question, though, for us. He's mentioned, and he's read your articles, Matt, too, and
cool.
he's seen where you've said, if you can, have a dedicated hard drive for another OS. Try not to dual boot.
That's just my preference.
Because I believe he said he read your article, Dual Booting Linux and Windows, Easier Said Than Done.
Yep.
And he was wondering why we don't employ dual booting.
If you know what you're doing and you understand all the ins and outs of boot records and all that stuff, dual boot till the cows come home. Awesome for you, whatever. If you're a new Linux user coming onto the scene, it may work, or you may end up messing some stuff up. You really just need to educate yourself and decide what's best for you. For myself, honestly, it's more of a principle issue. Out of principle, I don't dual boot because it's a machine that I dedicated to this task. If I need to run Windows that badly, I'll VM it. I don't dual booting to me is just very archaic and antiquated. I just don't do it. So
I still use quite a bit of dual booting just because I feel like every now and then there's just something I need another OS for.
Sure.
So, it's funny because I think actually every computer in this room, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 machines in this room right now, and they all dual boot.
Yeah.
Even if they run
but you have a practical need for it. I mean, but for a
Yeah.
casual person, though, it's just, I want to go gaming.
Yeah.
That's fine, but
I
now that Valve's doing its thing, you kind of
I do agree for a new user, it's a little risky.
It's just and there's I forget the name of the application specifically, but basically it's a disk manager that actually will allow you to install other distributions and stuff like that alongside Windows, and allows you to do those things smoothly. But
nothing's going to put somebody off Linux is if trying out Linux causes them to lose their family photos.
They read a bad tutorial or something, they get it backwards, or Windows 8. I mean, as new Windows releases come out, you just don't know. Maybe a patch comes along that does something wonky. You can't control that. Don't do that to yourself. Just not for me.
All right, email from Chris, and he says he loves LAS, also likes TechSnap and Coda Radio.
Cool.
And he's a developer, and he also dabbles in a little bit of Linux sysadmin, but he's no pro, he says.
Sure.
Now, here's the thing. He's running CentOS 6.3. He's got two 256-gigabyte hard drives. He's got them in an LVM, and he's got 4 drive bays available in his machine. So combined together, he's got 512 gigabytes of usable space.
Okay.
Now he wants to purchase 2 more larger disks and have all of those disks appear as one volume.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He said when he set up his current drives, he had no data on the server, so he didn't mind if anything went wrong. But now that he has some important data on there, he's a little more nervous about adding storage and having something go wrong. So he says, what's an affordable way to back up my current data? I thought about Amazon Glacier. Is it safe to extend logical volumes across 4 drives? I hear a lot of talk about RAID. Is this something I should be worried about? Keep up the great work. So there's a few things going on here. First of all, one thing I don't quite understand about Chris's question is if he's only dealing with 512 gigabytes of data,
right?
He could buy a 1 terabyte USB hard drive for $80-$90.
Yeah,
back up to that and then just go to town.
Absolutely.
So I'm not quite sure where Amazon Glacier comes in, because to back up 512 gigabytes of data to an offsite location can take a very long time over an upload.
Yeah.
So I would just get an external drive and back up.
Because a lot of times, especially when you're dealing with bandwidth caps and, of course, kind of being metered down as you do your upload, local has its advantages, honestly.
Or another computer on your home network if you've got that too. Now, if you've already set up LVM, which is probably what you've done, you will be able to extend onto those 4 drives, but do back up first.
Yeah, always.
Now, what you're doing, and you need to be aware of, is you are not in your current setup getting any redundancy from having these multiple drives. See, when you're combining these 2 256 drives and you're getting 512, that means both these drives are working together as one volume. But that also means if one drive dies, you lose both. You lose the entire volume. You lose the data on both drives.
Makes sense.
So you might want to consider maybe looking at going with like a RAID 5 setup. Especially if you're going to go with 4 drives, something like that. You know, when you're talking about the amount of disk space that you're dealing with here,
it's so minimal. It's like, why make it more complicated than it needs
to be?
Get
a 2 terabyte external.
Yeah.
And then make one volume. Get it as big as you want. And who cares if a drive fails? Just use Cron to do a nightly rsync to that external volume.
That's what I do at home.
And then you're backed up, and you can get as much storage capacity as you want out of all the drives in your internal system, which is probably what he wants if he's a developer and he's building projects.
Yeah, I just rsync it.
And you
I set it up automatically, rsync it, let it do what it needs to do.
You could set it up to Stripe, so that way you get some speed, some RAID 0 type benefits there. But just be careful with your data when you are running them like that. You are doing what I call scary RAID, and that's what I run here. Well, I'm running scary RAID right over
Another
there.
thought too is that some of this is new to you. Do a backup you understand and know 6 ways from Sunday, such as rsync. I mean, you can't really screw that up unless you're really not paying attention.
Just copy it.
Or just copy it. Yeah, just copy it. That's fine. And then get creative with your backup scheme. That way, if something goes horribly wrong, you have a backup for your backup. Just throwing that out there. So,
one last little bit I wanted to talk about. Mainly, this is really for the people that are able to join our IRC. IRC room's going all the time, not just during the live shows. But we have a new bot in there called Jupiter Station. So now we got 2 bots. We got JBot, which is taking your suggestions and does other neat things. It tells you the schedule, and like if you sign into the chat room, you could do bang next, and it'll tell you the next live show. It gives you there's some commands there, and we also have Jupiter Station, and Jupiter Station has a whole bunch of syntax, including lookups. And last time people have seen a lot of community features, so I will link a thread in the show notes that gives you some of the commands for some of the new bots in the Jupiter Broadcasting IRC, and I encourage you can always check it out. We're on irc.geekshed.net, and it's just room # Jupiter Broadcasting, and you can join us. Yeah.
Right on.
All right, Matt. Well, we're wrapping up here. I want to remind folks the Linux Action Show is live. You can take part in our live chat room over at jblive.tv Sundays at 10 a.m. Pacific or you can also find it over at jblive.info for the audio stream.
Yes.
Mr. Matt, what are you up to this week?
As always, you can find me at matthartley.com, and I've got some great legacy articles there. A lot of times the questions I'm being asked via email are already articles in that website, so check that out. And of course, you can find me at datamation.com/open source. And here pretty quick, I'll have another article appearing at OpenLogic. OpenLogic/WASI. Yeah, you can always find me there as well.
Don't forget to mention that you've been assimilated by the Borg.
I have been assimilated by the Borg.
You will become one with the Facebook.
Oh, yes, I have a Facebook account now.
Yeah.
And I could not tell you the URL for that, but I can link it in the show notes.
It is facebook.com/Matt Hartley Public.
Oh, okay. Initially I think I forgot the L in there, and it was really embarrassing, so I had to correct that. It was that was a little bit of a mishap I had to adjust.
Well, you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to hit like.
There.
I just liked your page.
Right on.
Facebook.com/Matt Hartley Public.
Yay!
So there you go. Of course, you can find me over at twitter.com/ChrisLAS.
Yes.
You can see right there on the lower third.
Nice.
Or I'm on G+. Just go to bit.ly/Chris Fisher to get to that.
And we're always both pretty active on subreddit.
Yep, linuxactionshow.reddit.com for that. And it's a great place to get a thread that makes it in the show, or you can email us linuxactionshow@jupiterbroadcasting.com. So I think we're going to be looking at the Ubuntu Phone images next week, so join us for that, as well as, of course, the news and our picks and all that other good stuff. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. We'll see you right back here next week. Rawr. Excuse me, man.
Hello.
I will hurt you like you hurt me.
Buried alive. Buried alive.
Oh, man.
Oh, hello. You said liftoff.
Hey-oh. All right, so where when you are, Matt?
All right.
Oh, God!